Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, the trilogy fight. It's happening at the end of this month. I'm getting my picks in here now. I'm going to give my 2 cents on this fight. Going to break it down. Want to delve in and give kind of a rough idea as to what I think will happen in this fight. Both guys' strengths, both guys' weaknesses, both guys' keys to victory. Alright? Now, we've seen this fight twice already. I have to say, when this fight was originally, when this was first announced, I was just like, really? I've seen it twice already. I felt Fury won the first time, didn't get the decision. It was close, to be fair, but I felt Fury nicked it. Second time was just destruction. There's no two ways about it. It was just destruction. So based off of that, I was just thinking, are we really going to see it? Do we really have to see it again? But saying that, the more we've got to this fight, I've said it in several videos, seeing the press conference, seeing everything, the more I've really started to warm to this fight, to the fact that I'm actually looking forward more so to this fight than AJ Usyk. Alright, so I'm good with this fight. The undercard is looking strong. They're not doing all heavyweights. There's a super lightweight fight on the undercard. Reese's Bartholomew is on. I best believe if anyone watching this video is ever struggling with insomnia, go and watch Reese's Bartholomew versus Robert Easter Jr. If you're not asleep after 5 rounds, you really are fucked, and I can't help you, because that'll put you to sleep. Seriously. So it's not all heavyweights, but for the most part it is. And there's another prospect on the undercard, a 4-0 guy as well. So the card's looking good, everything's looking good. How do we get to this fight? Well, we got to this fight just purely because there was a rematch clause for the rematch, which happened last year. Obviously, we know what happened in 2020. Put everything on the back burner. So, fight didn't happen. It was believed that the contract elapsed. Wilder said he was taken to arbitration. Team Fury and Eddie Hearn kind of, well, let's say Bob Arum more so, at the start originally when the arbitration thing went out, they kind of dismissed it. Obviously, Wilder had a lot more going than we all knew. So, here we are. In terms of this fight, I think for Tyson Fury, it's reasonably straightforward what you need to say about him. Look what you did in the rematch. Pretty much same thing. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You really didn't do much wrong. The only round that was somewhat competitive in that fight was the second round. Other than that, you really didn't put a foot wrong. You know, so for Tyson Fury, it's really not much else what you can do. Like, I mean, I would say for Tyson Fury, you see in the 5th round when he dropped Wilder, he was going to head and body. I think that's a very good idea to do. You know, get Wilder in the clinch, rough him up more. With Tyson Fury, what we normally see with him, certainly when he was trained by Peter and certainly when he was with Ben Davison, was his jab was good, but it was really kind of a rangefinder. It was really kind of to offset the opponent. In that rematch with Wilder, you could really see it was a proper Kronk style jab, but that he was really stepping in and he was using the jab as a power shot. Now I think that Fury needs to do more of that. Stick with that. Go to Deontay Wilder's body. It really kind of depends on how much Deontay Wilder's weighing. I think that Wilder would be best advised to come down a weight into the 210s. Every time Wilder's been north of 225, kind of in around that 230 region, is when even the fights he's won, he's never looked amazing. But when he's come in the low 220s or into 210s, that's when Wilder's really looked at his most comfy, at his most dangerous, at his quickest, just purely at his most sharpest. You know, people always say, well, you know, heavyweights don't need to make weight, so why should you say they should come in this weight? Yeah, they don't need to make weight, but there's an optimum weight for all heavyweights. You know, you saw it with someone like Muhammad Ali. When he was in the 210s, perfect. When he was in the 220s, saying that he was past his best at the time, but even still, it's when he looked at his best. You know, David Hay himself said that when he was weighing in about 210 to 215, that was his perfect weight. You know, he tried to get in around that, because if he was over that, and obviously at the end of his career he didn't care, but when he was over that, he felt, you know, not quite the same, not the same sharpness, not the same speed. So there's always an optimum fighting weight for most heavyweights. Now Fury, I think I felt this and a lot of others did going into the rematch, that when he said he was trying to put muscle on or put weight on, we kind of all looked at and kind of scratched our heads. And then more so when we saw him weighing in 270, You know, a few people thought, oh, he's giving it away. He's not even tried. He's going to go. He's going to get blown over. It shows what we knew, because I genuinely did not think Fury packing weight on would be a good idea. I thought it would be his detriment. I thought he'd be more stationary for Deontay Wilder. That extra weight didn't really do much to Fury. It made him even better fight. It obviously shows that John Fury knew more. Well, obviously he did, but John Fury knew what he was talking about. It wasn't just, getting Team Wilder to look in one direction. He was saying, no, we're better at this weight. They obviously knew they were. And the Fury said he wants to weigh 300 pounds for this fight. Now, I don't know if that... I think that might be a bit of misdirection from Tyson Fury. Whilst he was good at 270, he's saying he wants to weigh 300 pounds because he wants to get this fight over with quicker. I wonder, would that be a way too far? Like saying that I thought the 275 would be a way too far, but another 25 pounds on top of that, surely that would be a way too far. And Fury, he hasn't looked anything close to 300 pounds. I was saying that he could step on the scales and he could surprise me, but I reckon he'll be in around the 270s to 280s. That's what I reckon he'll weigh in at. As I said, with Fury and Javon Sugar Hill, there's not really a lot you can say about him that you would change necessarily. Like, I mean, you look at the rematch, just essentially do what you did in the rematch. Follow the same blueprint. I mean, you couldn't have really done much more better in that rematch, to be honest with you. Go up the head and body, go and bang Wilder's body, because I reckon that some of the body shots he was hitting him with were noticeable, that Wilder wasn't like it. So go and take some body shots, and, pretty much, like I said, I know it's cliche, but do what you did in the rematch. There's not really much else you can add to it. The rematch performance was so good. And some people say, well, he's inactive now. He's been out of the ring for a long time. So what? Deontay Wilder's been out of the ring the exact same amount of time. So it's not like Wilder is sufficiently more prepared. He's had 2 or 3 interim fights. No, they've had the same amount of time outside the ring. So essentially they're starting on a level playing field. So for me, with Fury, more spite in the jab, maybe let a few more right hands go. He was judging his range of distance very well in the rematch. I would imagine it's going to be similar. He's had a little bit more time to get used to training with Javon Sugar Hill. So I would say, just simple as with Fury, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stick to what you did in the rematch. With Deontay Wilder, the first thing I'd be saying to Wilder is come in that little bit lighter. Wilder's been saying for years and years and years, many years now, he wanted to pack muscle on. I always felt that Wilder in the 2 teens to the low 220s, maybe about 222 max, that's when we see the best of Wilder. Okay, Wilder is someone who relies a lot on his basically athleticism, but his timing. Now, when you're out of the ring for a prolonged period of time, irrespective of sparring, your timing will take a hit. So I say that Deontay Wilder's timing might not be the best early on in this fight. I was saying that his timing wasn't exactly amazing in the rematch early on. I think that Deontay Wilder, I don't think Deontay Wilder can outbox Tyson Fury. In fact, I'd be amazed if he could. But I do think that Deontay Wilder, by doing some jabbing, by doing a little bit of moving on the back foot, he might be able to get Fury out of his rhythm. Because Deontay Wilder, in 2019, he employed that tactic of just look for the right hand. Look for the right hand, wait for them to just make a mistake, I'll catch him with the right hand. Against Fury in that rematch, he never got a chance. And even though Fury was coming at him, he was offsetting Deontay Wilder so much. He was moving Deontay Wilder, he was moving his head a bit, he was jabbing Deontay Wilder, he was coming in on the front foot. He just pretty much just offset. Deontay Wilder was trying to land that right hand, but he couldn't get himself set. He was taking big shots from Fury. After a few rounds, Deontay Wilder's legs started to go a bit, so I don't think he could generate maximum power. So for Deontay Wilder, I would say just try it. I mean, what else can you do? Try it. Feint a couple of jabs to Tyson Fury's body. Because if you feint some of them jabs to the body, or even just throw a couple of jabs to Fury's body, and then maybe feint the jab to the body. If you look at Canelo Alvarez when he fought James Kirkland, the knockout came. Now, Canelo wasn't really feinting jabs to the body in that fight, but the knockout came where Canelo kind of feinted a little jab. He threw the jab out to Kirkland's body. It brought the arms of James Kirkland down, and he came back with an overhand right. So maybe something similar for Deontay Wilder. Not the same setup necessarily in terms of how Canelo did. He had him up against the ropes. But maybe if Deontay Wilder tried something like that, like get a couple of... It doesn't hurt to invest some jabs to Tyson Fury's body. might actually help, because we don't see many body punchers in heavyweight boxing. So for someone like Deontay Wilder to go to Tyson Fury's body, it could offset him. You never know. I think that would be Wilder's best strategy. Don't go just 100% gun shy. Try and look to set up the shot with feints. Try and move on the back foot. And here's the thing as well. Wilder's jab it's not a Larry Holmes jab, but it's not a terrible jab. When he lets it go, it's an alright punch. The reason why I think there's two ways for Wilder to win this fight. Both of them are by stoppage. Is to feint Tyson Fury onto a shot, or to walk him onto a shot. But as well as that, and people haven't talked much about this, right? The cut that he sustained in the Otto Wallin fight was deep. Right? It was a horrible cut. Scar tissue tends to never fully heal. Right? It never tends to fully heal. A case I've used several times is Vitaly Klitschko. His eye got mashed up pretty bad against Lennox Lewis with the cuts. Okay, now that was in 2003. He never really got tagged much up until about 2010, 2011, when he fought Kevin Johnson. And Kevin Johnson was able to land a couple of jabs. Now, Kevin Johnson lost that fight clearly, but he was able to land a couple of jabs on Klitschko. And look at his eye straight after the fight. You can see the scar tissue is there to see. You can see it wasn't cut, but you could see the damage that was there by Lennox Lewis was still there. It just needed sufficient enough force to bring it out, but it was still there 7-8 years later. Well, we're talking 2 years removed. I reckon there's still some scar tissue there. And I reckon if Deontay Wilder can aim, was it the right eye he got to cut over? If he can aim for that eye, a bit like what Lennox Lewis did, was it Gary Mason he fought, where he was sparring guys with like X's above their eye so he could target, because I think Mason had a detached retina. Pretty sure it was Gary Mason. I would say to Deontay Wilder, try and do that. Try and see if you can actually get that scar tissue and maybe reopen the cut. Because if you can reopen that cut, you could be behind on points, or you could be getting outboxed still. But if it's bad enough and it's sufficiently enough damage, you never know. The referee might decide, you know what, you can't continue with that cut. Yeah, you're winning the fight, but like look at Vitaly, he was winning the fight against Lennox Lewis, but he couldn't continue with that. I know it's a bit different. That was a much worse cut, but even still, you never know what might happen. So for Deontay Wilder, they'll be my two things. I think that for Fury as well, when I looked at Fury in the rematch, things he was doing well with Deontay Wilder, as I said, the jab. But I was talking about Wilder feinting. The feints that Fury was doing, they were not even that sophisticated. But Deontay Wilder, he looked so jittery. He was just, every single feint, he was immediately biting on the feint. So Wilder needs to just kind of, be a bit more kind of grounded. If Fury comes at him, if he's throwing these feints, don't try your best not to just buy the feint straight away, because it's just giving Fury more and more room to get a bit confident. Be think, right, if he's going to do this is what I'm going to do instead. If he's buying on all these feints, have to give a prediction on this fight. What I think is going to happen is I think that Tyson Fury is going to win this fight. Alright, I think it's going to be repeat. I think he's going to stop Deontay Wilder, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stops him similar between rounds 5 to 6. Between rounds 5 to 6. I can't see Team Wilder throwing the towel in. And this is a worry I have for Deontay Wilder. Alright, I can't see Team Wilder throwing the towel in, because they got rid of the one guy in the team who was actually legit and who cared for Deontay Wilder's best interest. They got rid of him and they brought in Malik Scott, who went from the outside looking in, does appear to be a yes man. He might prove me wrong, but he does. You've got Jay Diaz, someone with a nose like that you can't trust, and he comes across as a proper yes man. I just don't see these having the balls basically to just say to Deontay, no, you're taking a beating, enough stuff. I don't think they'll care to do it. I think they'll be just like, let him take a beating. They'll probably just do that. Whereas I would hope that if Deontay Wilder is in trouble in this fight, and he is, because Deontay Wilder in the rematch showed no quit. But one thing I'm thinking of is in this trilogy fight, with all the excuses Wilder's made, and he's made a lot of silly, ridiculous excuses to the point where even these PBC guys, like the Charlos, are coming out and saying, come on Deontay, come on, just come on. I wonder if Deontay Wilder, when it does get tough in there, maybe when he feels that first solid right hand from Tyson Fury, if the demons are going to come back. The demons from that rematch are going to come, and he's going to realise, everything I said about the gloves, the water, the suit, it was all BS. I'm in a real fight now. I have no excuses. And I wonder, will he capitulate mentally? That's the thing I have. I don't think he will, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Certainly not. As I said, I think Fury will stop Deontay Wilder. I suspect the referee may intervene and stop this fight. And we may get blames that the referee was in all this kind of you-know-what. But I reckon that's what's going to happen. I reckon Wilder will get dropped a couple of times and the referee will stop this fight. I do think it will be slightly more competitive in the rematch. I don't know why, I just have that feeling. But I can only see one outcome, and that's Tyson Fury winning the fight. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my prediction, giving my 2 cents on it. I'm going to leave it there. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know. Are you going for repeat, revenge, Wilder or Fury? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Did anything I say in this prediction video make you kind of second guess and think, oh, actually, do you know what? Yeah, you're right there, G. One other thing I meant to say about Wilder before I go is that I'm worried about before is that his age. He's 36 in October. He's now 35. His athleticism has always been great, but at that age, 35, 36, is when the athleticism will start to wane. It's when the reflex will start to slow down. And I wonder if Wilder's kind of in around that crest now, in around that kind of zone. At the end of the day, Wilder, say what you want to say about him, he's always been an active fighter. This is the most inactivity he's ever had in his career. Ever. So how will that affect him? All that taken into consideration, as I said, Fury to win, stoppage, similar kind of time space. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hope you liked the video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe of course if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. You see it there on the side. For now, lads and lasses, I'll talk to you. #GMAS rocks, all that good stuff. Peace.